Locked On Podcast Network and BetOnline present NFL Key Predictions. The local team experts of Locked On NFL give you the inside knowledge on the biggest games of the week and betting advice from the field's leading experts. You are Locked On NFL Key Predictions.
Hey everyone, and welcome into NFL Key Predictions. I'm Jordan Black. Week 11 has divisional battles front and center as we have 4 divisional games on the slate to go along with an NFC battle between Dallas and Minnesota, 2 teams with the playoffs on their minds. We kick things off in the Northeast where there is a universal truth: death, taxes, and the Patriots beating the Jets. New York will look to put an end to a 13-game losing streak against New England this Sunday in Foxborough, which has been a difficult task for this team. By most accounts, Zach Wilson and Mac Jones have done little to inspire confidence in their respective fan bases, and yet both teams enter action above 500. Looking to stay in the AFC playoff race, the defense on both sides should play a key role in the outcome on Sunday. John Butchko from Locked On Jets joins Mike Diabati from Locked On Patriots to preview this AFC East battle for us.
AFC East action this Sunday. The Jets are in New England. The second time these teams are meeting in 4 weeks. Both teams over 500. Both teams in playoff position. Mike, how do you see this game playing out?
Well, John, they play these games on the field and not on paper. And, the last time the game kind of shook out the way we thought it was going to. We thought it was going to be a very close-knit, very tough matchup, maybe a lot of defensive-minded, and come down to maybe 1 or 2 plays that could throw the game either way. I think it comes down to the same type of game this time around. I think both of these teams know each other extremely well. There's not going to be a whole lot of surprise on either side in terms of what other teams are going to do. I know the Jets had a field day the last time calling out some of the plays at the line of scrimmage that the New England Patriots were about to run. Mac Jones said that he's done a full audit of what he does, his mannerisms, all of those types of issues that may help to quell that a little bit, but the play calling needs to be a little bit smarter for the New England Patriots if they want to have success offensively. On the defensive side of the ball, the Patriots have to continue to be ball hawking. You were absolutely right in your assessment when you talked about some of the key matchups that are going to be going on in terms of Zach Wilson versus himself. If you go back and look at the footage on all of the matchups that Zach has had against the Patriots aren't showing him exotic looks or things that are really unorthodox. They're showing him very basic stuff when it comes to what the Patriots are doing. Zach Wilson, I think, is psyching himself up a little bit at this point, and maybe even psyching himself into making some uncharacteristic mistakes. So if he can control that, this game is going to be razor thin. If he can't control it, it could end up getting out of hand, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think both quarterbacks keep these teams right in the thick of things. Patriots are the home team. I'm going to go with the Patriots by a field goal in this one by a final of 20-17, but again, this is going to be a matchup that I think could go either way, and really a lot of stuff on the line when it comes to both of these two teams. I can't wait for this one on Sunday.
Mike, I was about to get my fans angry with me because, and this actually goes back 3 weeks, because I remember when we picked that New England Jets game. I picked the Jets, but in the back of my mind, I said, yeah, but I don't think they're going up to Foxborough in a few weeks. So I've been dreading this. But, you said something in the last segment that just, maybe it's probably me looking for any angle to pick the Jets, but you mentioned the offensive line issues in New England. And a lot of times these games just come down to the matchups. And, I really do like that matchup, this Jets defensive line going up against the New England offensive line. And, the other aspect of this, and, it's something that I can't say it's been forgotten because, a lot of people pointed this out. You pointed it out yourself, but there was a play in that first game. The Jets were, I think, were outplaying New England in the first half. And right before halftime, Michael Carter II intercepted the Mac Jones pass and ran it back for a touchdown, a pick six. The Jets, it felt like that may have been an early knockout blow for the Jets, but it came back because of a John Franklin Myers penalty. And Mike, you were being very diplomatic. I have to tell you, I had no issue with the call. I thought the call was the correct call. I thought John Franklin Myers made a bad play. And when I saw the flag down, I was getting ready because I was getting ready to yell about how the Jets, how this ref stole a touchdown. But then I saw it, and I thought it was a penalty. But I think this is a coin flip type of game. I think these teams are very close. I don't love the idea of playing Belichick off the bye. I don't love going to Foxborough, but this Jets team's been really tough this year. I think they're also a team that's going to be tough to sweep. It may come down to which quarterback avoids the big mistake. In the last game, both quarterbacks did make a big mistake. The New England one got wiped out, though, because of a penalty. If Zach Wilson plays within himself, if Zach Wilson is smart with the football, Jets have a great chance. I could go either way, but, I have to... the Jets have been so bad. It's been great to be able to pick the Jets a couple times this year. So I'll be a homer, Mike. I'll give you the same score. I'll give you Jets 20, Patriots 17. How about that?
There you go. I love it. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. The homers have spoken, folks. No, all kidding aside. We try to give you as much of the balanced analysis as we possibly can here, but I'm in complete agreement with you. I think these two teams are so evenly matched. I think they have such similarities when it comes to what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Well coached, well disciplined, and I think there's a lot that needs to kind of come to fruition with this rivalry. Once again, we're just seeing the seedlings of it. I think kind of blossom into something that we're going to see for multiple years from these two teams. But it's going to be a fun one this coming Sunday at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. I can't wait for it. John can't wait for it.
BetOnline has the coverage of the lines ahead of this matchup.
This is BetOnline All Access. It's the Jets and Patriots in Foxborough this Sunday. Here's Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas.
A big-time tilt in the AFC East as the Jets head to Foxborough to take on the Pats. Right now, Anthony, the Patriots are 3-point favorites.
Yeah, definitely see the Jets bouncing back on this one. Both teams coming off of a bye, and I think Zach Wilson, that was his worst game he played versus the Pats a couple weeks ago, and I think they're going to bounce back and win this one outright.
Yeah, even though Bill Belichick has the Jets number, I think they can keep it close. I got to go take the Jets with the +3.
All right, guys, I'm going against you. The Jets are owned by the Patriots. Losers of 13 straight against Bill Belichick. Zach Wilson against Bill Belichick. I'll ride with the GOAT. Lay the 3 with New England.
Thanks, guys. Be sure to get Jets, Pats, and everything else you need on the full episode of All Access at BetOnline's YouTube channel. And hey, while you're there, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Dak Prescott is back at the helm for Dallas, and yet the team has seemed out of sorts since the veteran signal caller returned. Combined with a defense incapable of stopping the run, there are more than a few questions to be answered in Jerry's world. On the other side, the 8-1 Vikings are fresh off that OT win against the Bills and have the NFC's #1 seed in sight. With Dalvin Cook ready to feast right before Thanksgiving, this one should provide another marquee matchup on Sunday. Marcus Mosher from Locked On Cowboys and Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings break down this NFC tilt.
So I saw the last few times that this has happened where an 8-1 team is a home dog is because of backup quarterbacks, right? They either lost their backup quarterback or they lost their starter or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we never see this happen where an 8-1 team with a full lineup. It's wild. These two teams are very similar though, right? I think these are both similar caliber teams. And I think because the Cowboys maybe have a little bit better defense is why odds makers are giving the Cowboys the nod here. I think this should be a pick 'em all day, to be honest. Like these are just two very, very similar teams. My gut tells me the Cowboys are going to win this game, but every time I look at the matchups, I think, man, Minnesota's just better here. They're going to win this matchup. They're going to win this matchup. I expect a super, super close game that comes down to the final possession, much like the last two games that the Vikings and the Cowboys have played. I just don't see either team blowing each other out.
Right. And the Vikings have not played in a 2-score game since week 2. So take your little win on BetOnline, I guess, because they haven't won a game by less than 8 yet, or by more than 8 yet, except for the Packers game at the very beginning of the season. I guess, I haven't really talked about what exactly it is that makes that defense go. You talked a little bit about how they're banged up in the secondary, but I mean, obviously Micah Parsons is a game wrecker. We sort of talked about that, but this Cowboys defense is a very well-respected unit. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about it. So what is the identity here?
I think it's pretty simple. The NFL rate when it comes to stunts, pass rush stunts is like 12%. Dan Quinn is using stunts on about 42% of passing plays right now for the Cowboys, which is insane.
And all 4-man rushes?
On 4-man rushes. They are an insane stunning team right now. Their pressure rates are ridiculous. They can create pressure with their front four. DeMarcus Lawrence is having arguably the best season of his career. Dorrance Armstrong, their third defensive end, is having a bunch of sacks. They got a sack last week from Sam Williams, their second-round pick. Like, they are 5 deep on the defensive line. They didn't even mention Dante Fowler. They can create pressure with 4 players better than anybody else. And when you look at like their third and long splits, it's unreal. Like, teams are converting third and longs at like 4% of the time against Dallas. So when the Cowboys get you in a third long, you're done. It's just getting there the last couple of weeks has been the problem. Green Bay never had a 3rd and 6 or longer against the Cowboys last week. And that's why they were able to keep drives alive and to continue playing the way they did.
Interesting. And did they run on it? Is that how they did it?
They basically just ran every first and second down, and they dared Dallas to try to stop the run. And they didn't, because they just didn't want to give up big plays. And then when they finally did come down to stop the run, Aaron Rodgers hit him over the top to Christian Watson.
Got you, setting it up all day. Okay, so here's the thing. Garrett Bradbury has had a much better season than he's had in the past. Ezra Cleveland has also taken a bit of a step forward. And then there's Ed Ingram, rookie right guard. He's struggled a bunch with stunts and stunt pickups and stuff. So I wonder if they see all that on tape and it's even just the analytics of it, that 42% stat. I wonder if that becomes an emphasis in the week, is trying to get better at passing and picking up stunts, and just understanding that when a guy is looping, you got to come off your double and come take him. And not to get too deep into a crash rush, like, if somebody crosses your face, let them, that kind of thing. That will be probably a really big emphasis in the O-line room. And I think if the Cowboys do win this game, we are looking at that as the reason, this was just an offensive line fell apart game. If you go back a couple weeks and watch the Commanders game, Commanders have a heck of a front four. And Jonathan Allen had the game of his life. He took Ezra Cleveland to the cleaners. So if that's going to be the kind of day we're up against, and we're just going to have, Kirk Cousins under pressure 55% of the time, that will definitely, that'll kill any offense. And that's the kind of thing that, whether you're at home or on the road in the playoffs, and maybe this is one of those things that makes the Cowboys more of a Super Bowl contender than most projected wildcard teams would be. If you can rush with 4 and keep 2 safeties on the roof, it's really hard to move the ball no matter what your offense is. So that will probably keep a lid on the Vikings. If they can get Justin Jefferson open against what we talked about before, like Anthony Brown or whoever, maybe that doesn't matter if the stunt gets home.
Well, and here's going to be the difference in this game is tackling. The Cowboys are a horrendous tackling team in the secondary. They're just bad on that side. So the Cowboys will blitz. They'll give you 4-man stuns. They'll get pressure. But if they hit Justin Jefferson on a slant and he goes 65 yards, sometimes it doesn't matter how often you're creating pressures and stuff. So that's what to look out for. I expect Cousins to be under pressure a lot in this game. It's just, can he make the throws? And can the guys after the catch make big plays? If the answer is yes, I see the Vikings scoring 28, 31 points in this game pretty easily.
Interesting. So that would be, I believe that would hit their over. So the over under this game is actually 47. And again, the Cowboys are favored by 1. Real quick, do you have a score prediction on that line? That implies like a 24-23 Cowboys victory.
Yeah, I think I said my gut says that the Cowboys are going to win like 27-24. I'll stick with that number. That feels about right, but I could see either team flipping. Like, I could see the Vikings winning that way. I could see the Cowboys winning that way, but this just isn't going to be, Luke, a 20-17 game. Like, these offenses are too balanced. They have too many explosive players. And I think the offensive lines are good enough overall that you're going to be able to make plays down the field. So I see both these teams scoring mid to upper 20s.
So I see this as a game where offensive lines hold these teams hostage a little bit. These D lines are good. like you mentioned with DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and all that. The Vikings may not have Christian Darrisaw, which means they won't be able. They've been sliding every protection away from Darrisaw, basically putting Darrisaw on an island, and it's helped everybody else because they all get to constantly be helping each other.
Yep.
Not having that is going to expose a lot of stuff that's been papered over against this D-line. I cannot, in any good conscience, pick against the Vikings after they beat the Bills. I just can't do that. But I do see this being close. I'm going to go 21-20 Vikings.
BetOnline has the coverage of the lines ahead of this matchup.
This is BetOnline All Access. It's the Vikings and Cowboys this Sunday. Here's Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas.
Plenty of NFC playoff implications in this matchup. Right now, the Cowboys, Anthony, are 1-point favorites at Minnesota.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm not falling for this one. There's something fishy going on with this game. I think that Dallas is playing really well. They fell short last week, but I think they bounced back on the road against the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't think so, man. I think the Vikings are fighting for that number one spot in the NFC, and I think they're going to go ahead and handle business. I got to go with the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings, winners of 7 straight, all by 8 points or less. This team has tons of confidence, a lot of belief. That home crowd should be a big difference maker. Give me the Vikings +1 at home.
Thanks, guys. Get Vikings, Cowboys, and so much more on the full episode of All Access at BetOnline's YouTube channel. And while you're there, like, share, and subscribe. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Getting stuck in Black Friday crowds, super uncomfortable, right? Shopping Tommy John's Black Friday sale from your couch. Now that's super duper comfortable. When you give your loved ones Tommy John, they're that much more comfortable, so they can do everything better. Shop Tommy John's Black Friday sale right now and give the gift of comfort to everyone in your life and everyone on your list, including yourself, with brand new Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas. So shop Tommy John's Black Friday sale going on right now and get 30% off site-wide. That's at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. 30% off everything now at TommyJohn.com/lockedon.
What's up? Oh, I'm just compiling all the top sports scores, news, and odds so I can make the very best picks.
Me too. BetOnline.net.
Get into the action anytime, anywhere at BetOnline.net.
The Bengals started off the season on a disastrous run, kicked off by a loss to division rival Pittsburgh. Since then, they've held a 5-2 record and resubmitted their resume for AFC North contenders. While the Steelers have a rookie under center and a lethargic offense, the 217 total rushing yards in their Week 10 win over the Saints at least puts the prospect of being competitive in the second half of the season back on the table now. The AFC North always brings a grunge match mentality, and this one should be no different. James Rapian and Jake Lisco from Locked On Bengals join Christopher Carter from Locked On Steelers to break down this game for us.
It's Locked On Steelers, Locked On Bengals. We're breaking things down. It's time to go to predictions, and I always like to do predictions in a way that allows us to talk about the course of the game, not just the end of the game. Because I always like to ask people, what do they think is the turning point? Like, what is the big X factor to the game that turns it into the favor of the team that you think is going to win, and when is that going to happen? Because I think those are important to tell with predictions, because we can all just name scores. Anyone can slap some numbers on a board, but what's the matchup that you think gets the team going? I'll let you go first, James. You picked the Bengals to win last time. Do you pick them to win this game? And if so, what is that turning point of the game to get you the final score that you're thinking?
56-21. No, I'm just kidding. I'll hold off on a score for just a second.
Okay.
Look, to me, I think game script is so huge. And the reason week 1 went awry, obviously you could point to the turnovers, but the Bengals get down early and they feel the need to pass. They have to throw drop back. Well, guess what you don't want to do against TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith when Alex Highsmith is torching Jonah Williams? Drop back. So to me, especially on the road, the last thing you want to do is get off to a slow start where Kenny Pickett finds George Pickens for a 62-yard touchdown, or Najee Harris gets going and they're able to drive downfield and punch it in, or you have a turnover like you had in week 1. The first one that just set everything up and really set you downhill. So to me, game script is huge, especially on the road, especially against a young quarterback. And so can this Bengals team get off to a lead early? I could say it every week, and I've said it a lot, because the Bengals this year in games they've gotten off to a quick start, it goes rosy, and it goes exactly how you're expecting it to, and usually they win. They start slow. Well, then that's a lot of the games that they've lost. So it's not that simple, and you have to finish and all of those things. But to me, on the road, it's going to be a wild crowd. There's plenty of hostility between these two teams still, and it is a rivalry. So I think getting off to a quick start is going to be huge. The matchups we talked about matters a ton. And ultimately, Joe Burrow is playing much, much better in recent weeks. He's not the Burrow we saw in week 1, and I'm not going to dismiss it because he did not play well. That was the worst game of his career. It's fair to say. He's not going to have 4 picks. The fumble, that was on Jonah too, by the way. Am I banking on Jonah being better? I do think he'll be much better than he was in week 1, where he just got beat. And so to me, they'll be able to get the ground game going a bit. And going into the year, Chris, even though I'm about to pick the Bengals, I had the Bengals splitting with the Steelers. I thought it would be flipped, and the Steelers would lose week 1. The Bengals would handle business at Paycor Stadium and then lose in Pittsburgh. Turns out I was wrong. I think it's going to be flipped this way, where the Bengals lost week 1 and they get it done this week against Kenny Pickett and company. You want me to give you a score, or do you want to go ahead first?
No, give me a score first.
I think 26-17, 26-20, something in that range is how I'm feeling. Where it's close, you're talking about 4 field goals for Evan McPherson, only 2 touchdowns for the Bengals offense, multiple field goals for the Steelers, and a couple touchdowns. Where it's close the whole game, but the Bengals, they find a way to win.
You guys still got Cal out of Midas over there?
Yeah.
How's he treating y'all?
He is one of the nicest dudes, man. He came on my YouTube channel with Elise Jesse last week and talked with her for like 20 minutes about all sorts of stuff. He is the nicest dude, always has a smile on his face, really soft-spoken. And I'm happy he's part of the Bengals, because he's, I don't talk to him much, but he's certainly
a long snapper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's a really good dude.
Yeah, he's super good. I mean, listen, we had a lot of fun talking to him whenever he did the at Pitt, when the reason that's why I know him, for those who didn't pick up why I was asking that question, but he was the Pitt long snapper for many years. At the end of every year, he would do he would cut all of his hair, because he grows his hair out every year. Yep. And he cuts his hair and he sells it. It's like part of a charity thing, and he does a great job. He raises money for kids all the time, and he is very kind-hearted. And I was just curious, just asking that, because I love Cal, and we always talk about, like, man, that was one of the nicest guys to come through the locker room. So very cool to hear that he's doing well with the Bengals. But all right, my turn to get into the predictions. Now, I say this, we're gonna do this like the MCU. We're gonna do multiverses here, because there's one universe where the Steelers don't get back Minka Fitzpatrick, and in that universe, I truly think the Steelers, they put up a really good fight, but they need X factors in this game. And that's what won them the last game. Minka Fitzpatrick jumping the pass and taking it back for a touchdown. Alex Highsmith breaking things open. The Steelers secondary feeding off of each other. And when you saw when their X factor guys set the tone, Cam Hayward getting the sack, Minka Fitzpatrick getting an interception, the role players started to get into it. Cam Sutton had an attack. And Keller Witherspoon had an interception, and that guy's been getting torched ever since. Like, that is what needs to happen for the Steelers. But if there's no Minka Fitzpatrick in this game, I can't see them winning this game. That's my alternate universe, where if it goes there, if he's not, because I'm not saying he's definitely going to play. I still personally think it's 50-50, because I know Mike Tomlin, I know how head coaches work. Pat Narduzzi, Pitt football's head coach, does the same thing. They like to feed you gas. They like to light you up. It's like, oh, here's he might be, he's looking good, and then, like, on the official injury report, they have to say what it is and make it in practice on Wednesday. So I'm like, they want the
Bengals to prepare for him.
Exactly.
Make Burrow think about Minka, even if he's not playing.
Right, and that's why I don't totally buy that maybe he's not. He said very positive during that Tuesday press conference, and I can't tell you how many times I've been fed something like that from a head coach, and I've been like, I don't believe you. I got to find someone else to tell me, like a trainer or a source or something. So the alternate universe where Minka doesn't play, I say the Bengals win, because they're able to connect on some big plays. You still got T. Higgins. You still got Tyler Boyd. You still have Joe Burrow. And I don't think Joe Mixon breaks loose too much, but he does just enough, and they hit on a couple shot plays. The Bengals defense keeps Kenny Pickett in check, keeps Najee Harris in check, and that allows the Bengals to win 24-20, similar to a score that what you were giving. But
But
in the multiverse universe, where the variant Minka Fitzpatrick comes onto the field and he's hyped up and he's angry. He's ready to play. I'm telling you, like when I was interviewing DeMonte KZ and Minka Fitzpatrick was like talking to like a trainer on the side, and I couldn't pick up every word they're saying, but it looked like Minka was like, "Yeah, I was fine. I'm good. Like leave me alone. Like I'm good." This guy is wanting to play. But that's also who Minka is. The Steelers may protect him and all because at the same time, like Minka Fitzpatrick is more than just a short-term say. He's here for the long haul. They paid him the big deal to stay here for several years. He's 25. You want him to last the long haul. So they don't want to risk anything crazy there. But it's appendicitis. If he's feeling good and they're going to play, I give the Steelers just as much of a chance as I gave them in week 1. I say it comes down in a similar fashion, 23-20, Steelers finding a way to win.
It's been an up and down season for the Chargers to this point, and they find themselves looking to bounce back following a Week 10 loss to the 49ers. Justin Herbert has been strong so far and certainly will want to avenge the Week 2 loss against the Chiefs and keep the AFC West division in reach. Patrick Mahomes continues to lead Kansas City's offense, which looks to secure a 4th consecutive win, strengthening its hold in the division race. Ryan Tracy and Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs join Daniel Wade from Locked On Chargers to preview the Sunday night matchup for us.
We'll see which Chargers team shows up, right? Because this is a Chargers team that's kept it close in almost every game. But one of the troubling trends for the Chargers is the second half stalling of the offense. Last week, they got shut out in the second half. And that's how they've gotten blown out in both games. With the Seahawks, they got blown out. Yeah, and the Jaguars, they got blown out in that game as well. Both of those games, the Chargers offense completely stalled in the second half, and the defense, which had kind of, been holding everything together with glue and duct tape, fell apart, and the Chargers offense wasn't able to respond. The Chargers are going to have to take some punches in this game and be able to respond to it. And for the Chargers, like I've said before to the Locked On Chargers fans, I think they need this game or the Titans game or the Dolphins game to make the playoffs as a wild card team, right? Just talking about overall record, getting to 10 wins. This is the only way the Chargers win the division is by winning this game. Do I think they're going to do it? No, I do not. So let's get into our final game predictions here because it is Wednesday. And the thing is I don't know how I would feel. If I knew Trey Pipkins, a guy we haven't talked about so far, the Chargers starting right tackle was going to play, I'd feel a lot better about this. If you told me right now that Gerald Everett, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen were not only going to play, but they were going to look like their old selves and were going to be as close to fully healthy as we've seen them in a long time, I could potentially pick the Chargers to win because it is one of those things where these matchups have always come down to close games and one team ends up making a play at the end of the game. In the first matchup, it's the Chiefs taking a 100-yard pick six back.
Yeah, I mean, Slater's out this game. I mean, obviously he's on injured reserve. Is your center back? And I'm sorry, I should have.
Oh yeah, Corey Linsley is back. So I mean that they're middle
so
three dudes. Yeah, when you're going up against Chris Jones, yes. Well, and if you look back, Chris, what happened in that first matchup? Right, Corey Linsley got hurt in that first half.
Yeah, no, and that changed everything in the second half. No, I absolutely agree with that. And like I said, I apologize. I should have seen whether or not he was back. I couldn't remember if he was. That will help them. But you're still missing your starting left tackle. You're still missing your top two wide receivers. Potentially, you're missing your starting tight end.
Probably your top two tight ends, yeah, and your starting right tackle potentially.
Yeah, and Bosa's out. I mean, your defense is hurting, and you just lost another guy this week in the young defensive tackle. And I'm sorry, I don't remember.
They lost two more defensive tackles last week. Tito Abonia, their rookie 5th-round pick, and also Christian Coveney. That's 4 defensive tackles for those counting at home, Chris, over the last 2 weeks. One of them was Jerry Tillery, who they released.
I was going to say, and they released him.
4
Kansas City tried to put in a claim.
Yeah, I know, of course. How did Kansas City and the Raiders not know better than that? I mean, pre-draft priors are a real, very, very real thing. But the thing is, the Chiefs, though, are a team that's maybe they can handle a little bit of, disruption or, trying to get the most out of guys, and they've been able to do that in the past.
Okay, let's be fair on that, though. What was Kadarius Toney in New York?
A problem, a headache. Yeah,
and look at everything. And I know I'm diving into the details a lot, and I apologize probably to your Chargers fans, but watching him play the first game was an eye opener for me because I did not expect to see a guy that was going to be working his butt off out there, blocking, sprinting to people to try to help them up, really getting in and trying to help his teammates and do whatever he could to be better. And that is what impressed me about Kadarius Toney. I'm not saying it's going to work out long term, but if he has that attitude, that says a lot compared to everything we heard about in New York. So that's why it doesn't surprise me they would put in a claim for a guy like Tillery.
Well, and I mean, I feel like the Chiefs have had a bunch of, mid-season additions over the last few years, one way or another. And it's usually them either picking up a guy who, got released for whatever reason and trying to rehabilitate themselves and put themselves in a better light and hopefully get a new contract after their time is done with the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs are a great place for that. For the Chargers, they seem to not be willing to take chances on any of those guys. It's kind of, seemingly a franchise philosophy, which is dumb. Take chances, go get guys that could potentially help. And if they don't help, they're usually done at the end of the year and you move on and you find somebody else. The Chargers have been, kind of skimming off of practice squads, skimming off of, rookie free agents and things like that as far as trying to replace some of these guys that are missing time, significant contributors for them. And that's part of the reason I don't know if the Chargers will be able to keep up in this game. I'll go first with my score prediction here. I think the Chargers keep it close for some of the game, but I think this one gets away from them a little bit. I know these games have been really close, but given the uncertainty, given the potential, I mean, Chris, right now, if you told me that Gerald Everett, Mike Williams, right, and Keenan Allen are not going to play, I probably pick the Chiefs to win by 14. I don't know, but I think that's how much of a difference and how much is up in the air going into this matchup. The way it's here right now, I don't think the Chargers have enough firepower on offense or defense to win this game, frankly. I don't have faith in it. I mean, if they would have won last week against the 49ers and showed me, hey, even banged up, we can beat a good team on any given week, maybe I feel a little bit differently about it. But I think they're just a little too short in the health department right now, where I think they're going to give some teams some tough games. And I think that overall talent and the overall health at the end of these games is going to end up separating them from their opponents. So for this one, I have the Chargers going down 24-33 to the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Just a game where I just don't know if they can keep up.
This game is going to be fascinating to me because there's so many variables that we just can't even begin to have any idea about right now. Is Mike Williams going to play? Is Keenan Allen going to play? Is Jared Everett going to play? Is your right tackle going to play? I mean, all those guys are going to make a huge deal into how the score ends up. And then you look at the Chiefs, and Juju's most likely out.
That's huge to me. That's huge to me because I think he's the chain mover. At least from what I was watching, he's the guy that seems like he's built that trust up with Patrick Mahomes that can get them those third down conversions to kind of keep things moving.
No, it's a huge loss. If he's not able to play, that is a huge loss for Kansas City. And the key here for me is with Bosa out, it's going to help the tackles, which they've struggled at times. So that could help Kansas City. But then you're also looking at MVS, who's had trouble with drops this year, like he has his entire career. Yeah. And you're dealing with a wide receiver that, Mahomes trusts to an extent, but doesn't seem to trust all the way in MVS as well.
Right.
So that's going to be a problem. And if Derwin James somewhat shuts Travis Kelce down, where are you going to move the ball? Where are you going to throw the ball? Who are you going to throw it to? Sky Moore hasn't been really involved in the office. Kadarius Toney is new. Can you use him? Yes, but is that really going to move the chains? Watson had a fantastic touchdown catch against the Chargers, but other than that, I mean, you're sitting here in a situation where pass catchers could really be a problem for Kansas City. And the right tackle was hurt. Andrew Wiley got hurt last game. It looks like he's probably going to play this game. I think that could help. I really wonder if Kansas City is going to be looking at trying to run the ball. With all your injuries around the defensive line, it'd make a lot of sense for Kansas City to try to rack up 200 rushing yards. And I know that seems insane for a Chiefs team to do, but with all the wide receiver injuries, maybe you're going to have to go 2 and 3 tight ends for most of this game. And maybe that's the way you beat this team. Maybe it's a lower scoring game than you normally would expect. Maybe it's 27-17 or 27-20.
From Locked On Bets, here's Lee Sterling.
This is Lee Sterling from Locked On Bets and Paramount Sports with your BetOnline prediction for the game between the Kansas City Chiefs laying 6.5 points at the LA Chargers. Now, the Chargers played a great and spirited game for about 3 quarters against San Francisco last week, but they just ran out of players. The windows right now for Justin Herbert to pass into are just so tight without Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So it's going to continue to be tough. And also on defense, they're without Bosa on the defensive line. They're missing a linebacker, a couple guys in the secondary, either missing or banged up. So it is really tough for the Chargers to compete. The Chargers have played well against the Kansas City Chiefs, 4-1 against the spread the last 5 games when they've matched up against each other. But the visitor is 3-0 against the spread in the last 3 in this series. I think that Kansas City, with the addition of Kadarius Toney from the Giants and former Florida Gator, I think that's coming into fruition now. He's developing a real nice rapport here with Patrick Mahomes, and also McCole Hardman. He is coming into his own as a receiver here. So this Kansas City offense averaging 30 points per game on the season. I think it's going to be a blowout here. Blowout City. Kansas City Chiefs 34, LA Chargers 13. For more, subscribe to Locked On Bets wherever you get your podcasts.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer to esports, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Backup Colt McCoy might be the better option for the Cardinals, which speaks more to the dysfunction in Arizona than the veteran quarterback's play. Even if Kyler Murray makes the start, it'll be a tall task to take down the 49ers, who are on a 2-game win streak and playing well above their 5-4 record. For Arizona, this will be the last gasp to save their season while Jimmy G in San Francisco can keep themselves in the division battle and also entrenched in the wild card picture. Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers joins Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals to preview this Monday night matchup.
When you look at this matchup, tell me who wins and tell me what the Cardinals need to do to win this game.
I'll go first on this one. This is an easy blowout win for the 49ers at home in Mexico City because it's going to be 100% red in the stands. And we'll see what percentage of that 100% is Cardinals fans, which is 49ers fans. But judging by the listens, and I can go in the back door and see where people are listening from. And I get people in our mailbag segments or when jumping on the live chat, seeing people global with the 49ers. They just travel so well. And it's unfair in a lot of ways in the NFC West for the 49ers to go play 2 home games against the Rams, 2 home games this year against the Arizona Cardinals, getting a Mexico City game. So,
why do I have to do this twice a year?
for that reason, 49ers big, 8 points is going to have to be enough. It's tough because I don't know if there's going to be enough points to be a big blowout. I had the 49ers by 4 last week, even though they were favored by 7 for the same reason. I think the 49ers, the way Kyle Shanahan is wired, the way he wants to play, the way the 49ers defense plays, I just don't see a lot of big high scoring games for the 49ers on paper. Mm-hmm. So I do think the 49ers can win this game. I think they can win by a touchdown.
Wait, is that weird to you, what you just said? They've got offensive firepower that other teams are like. I mean, you've got.
Tell Alex how much we talk about this very thing on our podcast, right?
Now, is that Jimmy G or is that Kyle Shanahan or is that Jimmy G?
That's the $1 million question, and
yes.
we're trying to figure that out. I think there are more opportunities out there, but maybe a lack of just overall execution, just here and there. Right? Last week, they had a play in the red zone. Brandon Ayuk runs an amazing route, whoops the defensive back, drops the ball on the goal line. That should have been a touchdown. That takes 4 points off the board because the 49ers had to kick a field goal. So there's been little instances like that. There was another play where Deebo Samuel failed to make pretty much kind of a stock kind of reach block on Derwin James, an amazing safety. But if he would have made that block, well, Elijah Mitchell is one-on-one with the safety 10 yards downfield with the two-way go. And that could potentially be a touchdown. So I think there are just opportunities that the 49ers just aren't quite capitalizing on. I think the guys are there. I think they have the right weapons, but it's just a play here and there that keeps them from really kind of blowing the doors off of the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean,
that's been consistent. So it's not like, we can count on that to happen against the Arizona Cardinals. Like, no, that's been something where it's just that one kind of lack of discipline. So because of that, you ask the question, who does that, lie on? Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan? I'd say I swing that pendulum more towards Kyle Shanahan because he's the one that's either coaching it or letting it happen.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't even think about that, the amount, because they have 3 positions with a top 3 player in it. I mean, tight end, wide receiver, whatever you want to call Deebo Samuel. Now Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Elijah Mitchell's probably a top 20 running back when he's healthy. And the
probably
offensive
higher.
line is fine. Yeah. What we saw that last game where it's like, well, did they need to trade for Christian McCaffrey? And with the Cardinals, it's frustrating in a different way where they haven't won more games than they've lost, which is nice. Like if the 49ers were 3-6 right now, or 4-6, and they had that firepower, there would be a lot more heat under the rumps of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for being fired or things like that, but it's like, why is this not working? And that's interesting, and with the Cardinals, it's like, I look at the front seven, like you always look at it with the 49ers. It's always the lines. They always build it right. And, Fred Warner is a nightmare fuel. And we said this 2 years ago, right before he got his contract extension. I think you and I were, I think it was probably us three, that it's like Fred Warner is the most underappreciated defensive player in the NFL probably. And then he got his money. And then it's like, well, now we're looking at Bobby Wagner part 2, even though they're not exactly the same player. Like we're looking at that perennial talent, and that is nightmare fuel for me. And it doesn't matter who is rushing, whether they're blitzing or it's just they're just rushing 3 or 4. This rush is always something that gives the Cardinals trouble. And with the offensive line being so, decimated, especially on the interior, it's like Colt McCoy is going to have to, this is going to have to be like it was last week, like a high school offense. 3 yards out, 5 yards turn around. And they did it well. And the one thing that the Cardinals have that a lot of teams don't, and I'm removing DeAndre Hopkins completely from this because he never relies on his speed to get to where he needs to go. He never has. When you have Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore, and Greg Dortch, who's he's not a well-known person, but he's made waves, especially in the preseason. Those guys are like Teslas. I mean, it's 0 to 60 in like half a second. So if they can catch the ball around the line of scrimmage and they have good blocking schemes and they have these guys in space, any play could be a chunk play. It doesn't have to be a lot of air yards for that to happen. And they're really going to have to lean on that, especially if the pass rush is getting home or getting close to it, like we think they will with this decimated offensive line and no Kyler Murray. So real quick, we have 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Eric Crocker, game prediction, score.
I got the 49ers 31-23.
Peacock.
27-20 49ers. I like that D-line to win against the Arizona Cardinals O-line enough to make things pretty difficult on them.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's going to be like 23-17 49ers. I think it's right around that range. Like the Cardinals defense is underrated for what they've done because of the points against. I think they're bottom 3 in the league, but it doesn't tell the whole story. It just doesn't. And when they're able to flip the field for the offense and the offense can execute, this defense is a lot better than people give them credit for.
From Locked On Bets, here's Lee Sterling.
This is Lee Sterling from Locked On Bets and Paramount Sports with your BetOnline prediction for the game between the San Francisco 49ers laying 8 points versus the Arizona Cardinals. And this game is being played in Mexico City. Now, it looks like Colt McCoy will probably get the start here, quarterback for Kyler Murray, who's been banged up the last couple of weeks. And boy, he's been really good against the NFC West. 3-0 against the spread the last 2 years when he started against teams in his division. Also, starting to get some really good play out of their wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, who was back a few games ago from suspension, he and also Rondell Moore look unguardable. Last week, they chipped in with 98 and 94 receiving yards. And then James Conner, who's been hurt on and off early in the season, also had 2 touchdowns. So this Arizona team, who knows why, they play the best against the very best. 7-1-1 against the spread. The last 9 game against the 49ers. I think the wrong team is favored. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals to upset the San Francisco 49ers 28-24. For more, subscribe to Locked On Bets wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, when Week 11 wraps up, there will be teams that can taste playoff berths, while many others could find themselves counting down the days until the offseason. With each and every week, we'll continue to bring you all of the insight and analysis from across our Locked On network. I'm Jordan Black, and this has been NFL Key Predictions.